Welcome to another edition of It's All Relative. I'm Josh.
I'm Sarah.
And today we'll be discussing the recent tragedy that took place at Robb Elementary in Uvalde, Texas. We'll talk the timeline, prevention actions and ideas, gun control, and so much more. You guys already know what to do. Turn it up, press play, and get ready for an all-new episode right here on the It's All Relative podcast. So what's up, Sarah?
Not too much. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's been a few weeks since we've been together.
Yeah.
You know,
almost like a little break there for a second.
Yeah. Much has happened personally, worldwide.
Yep,
you know what I'm saying? But first and foremost, happy birthday again.
Yes, thank you. I turned 22 last Sunday, so that was interesting. Yes.
How's it feel?
I want to complain that I'm getting older, but I did that, and my brother yelled at me because he's creeping up on 30, so I just feel good, you know?
Yeah,
so
I was going to say,
we'll
you both are still so young. But, awesome. I did want to give a quick shout out to my oldest. It's his birthday today.
Yes, happy birthday, Bay.
Yes, happy birthday, Bay. Quickly, I also wanted to say a quick rest in peace to Ray Liotta. Okay.
Yes.
The only reason why I bring it up is because he is in one of my favorite movies of all time. Okay.
Yes.
And that movie is Goodfellas. Sarah, have you seen it?
I feel like I have in the past, but I just don't remember it. I'm not someone who sits down and watches many movies, so it's really hard for me to do so, and I just don't retain movie content the way that others do, I think. But
movie,
I know of the movie. It's it's not a foreign name to me for sure.
Okay, yeah, this movie is pretty long, 3-hour movie or 3+, close to that.
There you go.
But I was gonna say good because if you haven't seen it, then that's your homework. You gotta watch that.
All right, that's fair.
But let's quickly move on to Sarah's fact of the week.
Yeah, sure. So I have my favorite show is The Vampire Diaries. And their cover photo, like in the beginning and the end of their episodes, they show, it says The Vampire Diaries, obviously, but in the background, they have this like little swoosh thing. Mm-hmm. And that's like really all I can describe it as. And I just recommend if you don't know the show, just Google it and you'll see exactly what I mean. I have that tattooed on the side of my foot. And it's like, kind of subtle. Not many people, if you don't know the show, like, you're probably not going to know what it is, but it can just be a pretty design to some, and others are like, oh my God, is that from the Vampire Diaries? And I'm like, yeah. So.
Have you had people that have noticed it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
Yep.
How'd that feel?
That one was actually my most painful tattoo.
Yeah.
Right there on the side of my foot. It's on the outside of my foot, so it's like that skin right there, like right underneath your ankle. Mm-hmm. So thin and just, yeah. We got done with the outline. My artist looked at me and like he's done all the work on my arm too. So like he knows my pain tolerance. He looked at me, didn't even say a word, just put the numbing foam on my foot, and I was like, yes.
Yeah.
And we got through it. So
awesome.
But yeah.
All right, cool. Let's move on to what we're going to be talking about today. Okay.
Yes.
Our episode has a lot of heavy emotions tied into it. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a topic that makes people feel uncomfortable, and many shy away in fear of having nasty debates over it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
But that is what we are all about here. All right. We want to have those uncomfortable discussions because that's the only way we will begin to see, hear, and understand the other sides. You
right.
know what I'm saying?
Yep. You have to have the conversation. You can't always argue.
Absolutely. I will say that when getting this episode together, I saw many people on social media talking and sharing their opinions about our very topic today.
Yes.
Okay.
Strong opinions.
Right, there are, which is valid. But when I tried to get a few guests on, everyone was very reluctant, which honestly made me feel a little discouraged and frustrated.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
But then I heard a podcast that I listened to on a weekly basis this past week. Okay.
All right.
And it's a high-end podcast. It's run by famous people.
Okay.
So their network, they're in the media. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
They had said though, and they're 100+ episodes in. but they were just having a conversation, and it got brought up that the most difficult part about their show
Yeah.
that they had found was getting a guest to come on.
Right.
And when I heard that, it made me feel a little more at
Better.
ease.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's just the topic.
So, but I began to think, you know what? Like, our show is real. You know what I'm saying? We're unapologetic.
Absolutely.
And we talk about things that others are intimidated by.
Yeah.
And we're not going to change that for nobody. So we're going to talk about this horrific shooting that took place in Uvalde, Texas.
Definitely.
All right. So let's go back to May 24th, 2022.
Let's do it.
Were you following this when it was happening?
Not too intensely. It was kind of once the post came out and showed kind of the faces of some of the children and the victims and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I did kind of shy away a little bit because you see that and it really hits you because they were all young children, you know, and it's like it's real and it's happening, and you know I know what's happening, but it's hard to keep up with. It's a very, very intense and sad topic, you know.
Yes, for the fact that you mentioned children being the victims, different. This one is definitely, and I mean, we will talk about others in the past, but
yes,
when there are these,
and the adults too,
right? When there are these mass shootings, though, and school shootings and whatnot, they usually are not young children,
right?
You know what I'm saying? So that's why this one was such a an eye opener, you know.
Yeah.
But let's break down the timeline a little bit, okay?
Yeah.
You are familiar with this, okay? So break it down.
I was able to find a website, and the headline at the top said the Texas the Texas Tribune, and they actually had info back from September of 2021. Because in 21, the shooter asked his sister to help him obtain a gun before he was 18, but she refused to do it for him. So he showed interest in weapons way before.
Interesting.
Good
call. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just want to say good call on behalf of his sister. You know what I'm
absolutely,
saying?
right? Just like that's a big red flag in of itself. Like, what do you need that for?
Yeah, correct.
And March 1st through the 3rd of 2022, let's see. On the 1st, he discusses wanting to buy a gun in a group chat. And by March 3rd, in another chat, someone tells the shooter, I kept forgetting his name. I apologize.
You're good. His name is Salvador Ramos.
Ramos, okay. Ramos said someone said to Ramos, word on the street is you're buying a gun. And the shooter replied, just bought something right now. March 14th, 2022, Ramos makes an Instagram post with a caption saying 10 more days. And a user commented, are you going to shoot up the school or something? Ramos replies, no, and stop asking dumb questions and you'll see. And I guess there was just a note there that said the investigator didn't specify what the post consisted of, but I assume it was maybe the post of weapons, because I know that he had posted photos of the guns that he bought.
Right, I was going to say, these are all major red flags.
Yeah, and like, there's other stuff, other facts I found about him, too, later on that that are relevant to that as well. But, so, and also I just want to say that on this website, it did say that these notes would be updated, and when I wrote all of this down, the last update was 12 hours beforehand, and I wrote all of this Thursday.
Okay.
So,
pretty up to date.
Yeah. So May 16th through the 20th, Ramos turns 18, legal age in Texas to buy a gun. He legally purchased 2 AR platform rifles from a local federal firearm license. On 2 days, he bought one on the 17th, and he bought one on the 20th. He also bought 37 rounds of 5.56 caliber ammunition.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
And then I got up to May 24th.
Okay.
So.
The day of the shooting.
Yes. Yes.
Well, like we had said, major red flags.
Huge.
Which, I mean, we will touch on later on in the show too. But social media, everyone uses it. Everyone talks. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
On it, and man, I feel like some of these people that he was interacting with. I mean,
yeah,
bro, speak up. You got to say something if there are these red flags about people possibly, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Trying to do some crazy shit.
And it was crazy because even on this website, there were so many references to social media, and this and that was posted. And this person went live, showing that the cops weren't letting the parents in and stuff like that. Like, it was all just social media is getting intertwined with all of this stuff. And I don't know if it's really helping or hurting a situation at this point,
Right.
It's definitely something to think about.
Yeah.
Social media could be a whole other episode, though.
Yeah. So, do you want to continue then?
Yeah,
on the day of the shooting?
So I have May 24th, and this website was super detailed. May 24th at 11 a.m., Ramos sends private message to an online friend in Germany and tells her his plan to shoot his grandmother. Then Ramos shot grandma in the face, and the website has said that she then called police. So then she was taken to the hospital in critical condition, and I don't believe she survived, if I'm correct. I'm not 100% sure. I didn't get confirmation on that.
Okay.
Ramos stole his grandmother's vehicle and arrives and leaves from his home and arrives 2 miles away at Robb Elementary School. So by 11:28 a.m., Ramos crashes the vehicle in a ditch near the school. He fired at 2 male witnesses who began to approach the crash from a nearby funeral home, and witnesses called 911. So that's the second 911 call into Ramos. At 11:30, a teacher makes a 911 call to report the crash, and seeing Ramos with a gun, she walked towards the school, she, called them, let him know that she saw the gun and it's a threat. Ramos walks towards the school, climbs the fence and into the parking lot, and shoots at the school several times.
So this is all happening quite quickly.
Yeah. Yep.
Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Lot to take in. Those people that he shot at, they had said they were teachers or bystanders?
The witnesses, they were over at the funeral home. So they actually had a Google Map picture up on there. And the way it's kind of set up is you have the school at one corner, and then behind it is kind of where he crashed in a ditch.
Okay.
And then off diagonally, kind of to the left of the ditch, if you were kind of facing to where the school's on your right, off to the left is a funeral home.
Okay.
So the funeral home is within walking distance of the school. So they must have just seen it, and they tried to approach the vehicle to maybe help, someone who had just crashed, and he shot at them, obviously not wanting, needing, or accepting help at all.
Right. Okay.
So, yeah, that's all within a half an hour, 11 a.m. to 11:30. He shot his grandmother in the face, came to the school, shot at witnesses, has 3 911 calls into him at this point.
Yeah, I was just going to say, though, I wanted to go back to that. That is some horrible shit. Shooting anybody, but shooting a family member, your grandmother in the face, like what kind of
what did she do to you?
What kind of sick person, man? But I'm glad that she was. That's crazy that she survived long enough or whatever to make a phone call.
Yeah, that's exactly. And who knows if she could even really see? You get shot in the forehead. I can't even.
Yeah, that's horrible.
So he ended up climbing the fence into the parking lot and shoots at the school several times. So that's at 11:30. 11:31 a.m., Ramos gets to the last row of vehicles in the parking lot, firing at the vehicles all throughout, and police arrive at the funeral home. So a school district police officer speeds in the direction where he thought he had seen a shooter, but it was actually a teacher. So he mistook a teacher for the shooter, but...
Come on, man.
Yeah, right? So, and that's also, I want to point out that they did specify between a school district police officer and then a Uvalde city police officer. So this school did have police officers there.
Okay.
That's what I assume and why they specified it the way they did in this article. So I just want to point that out because that is a huge thing that people have been talking about having the officers in school.
Yep.
So, so by 11:33 a.m., Ramos enters the school through the back door and shoots at least 100 rounds inside classrooms 111 and 112, which those two classrooms were connected.
Oh, that's horrible.
Authorities originally said a teacher left the door propped open, but later said a teacher closed the door. However, the automatic lock failed, which I also thought was interesting because either way, I mean, whether the teacher left the door propped open, which I know some schools don't allow, or whether the lock system failed, it's still on the school because where's your maintenance at? You know, where are your drills at? So that was 11:33. 11:35 a.m., 3 Uvalde police officers rushed to the same back door where Ramos entered through.
Still unlocked?
Which it was closed, but I believe they must have busted it down. Somehow they enter and receive grazing wounds from the gunman, and then they retreated. So that's at 11:35. Pete Arredondo is the chief of the school district's police department, and he also arrives at this time to the school at 11:35 a.m. He doesn't have his radios, and his attorney claimed that he did not have it because he wanted both hands on his weapon in case he encountered the gunman, and claimed the radios would have slowed him down. Which, I mean, being a chief, like, he knows what he's doing, but I feel like you miss out on a lot of information not having that radio right there, but...
Yeah, that's important.
Yes. So I also thought that was kind of interesting. And that's how the article worded it, was that his attorney made that statement. So that's also kind of something. Four more officers, including a Uvalde County sheriff, entered the school around this time, which, again, was 11:35 a.m. 11:37, the gunman fires 16 more rounds. 11:43 a.m., Robb Elementary and Uvalde Police post on Facebook, "The students and staff are safe in the building. The building is secure in a lockdown status," school officials say in an announcement. So that's at 11:43 after this gunman has already been inside the building, and this school posted that.
And he's still alive at this
He's
time.
still alive at this point.
Okay.
That's like, that blew me away. Like, I had to take a second after I read that. I was like, you just straight up lied to these parents.
I was gonna say that's
insane.
A big strike on the school once again.
Again.
You know?
And at the same time, Uvalde Police Department posts on Facebook, "Large police presence at Robb Elementary. We ask the public to avoid the area." So those statements are contradictory in of themselves, you know, and obviously I hope most people went ahead and trusted the police more than the school district, which, I mean, public, I wouldn't consider parents public, you know. We're talking strangers, people just want to look and see what's going on, but parents did not stay away, and I don't think they should have either, but, you know, I'm sure we'll get into that.
Yeah.
So, Facebook posts, those were at 11:43 a.m. 11:44 a.m., Uvalde City and School District Police are inside the school. Uvalde Police enter the building where the shooter was at the north entrance. So I'm assuming that back door is probably considered the north entrance.
Yeah.
Because that's where the classrooms were and that's where he was. At this time, they hear gunfire. They are shot at and move back to get cover. Around this time, Arredondo, the same guy who doesn't have his radio, and another Uvalde police officer enter through the south entrance. Arredondo witnesses the gunfire. He checks the classroom door that the shooter was in, and it was locked. He uses his cell phone to call for SWAT teams, snipers, extrication tools, and keys to the classrooms. And then there was a quote that I wanted to refer to too, which using your cell phone to do all, you know, it's like the radio probably would have been quicker. There's no.
I was just gonna say
it's seconds that matter in these scenarios, and it's just that ring time takes up, you know.
Yeah, I was
precious
gonna say that was
time.
an important time to have your radio, bro.
Yeah, right. Let me see. Can I find it? I don't think I'm going to be able to get it. I ended up with a lot of information.
This paints a pretty wild picture, though. I mean, with all this chaos going on, this guy locking himself in a connected classroom, doors locked, and just, firing his gun off with these children and teachers and whatnot in these classrooms, as well as you had said shooting some of the police who had tried to go in.
Right.
Pretty wild.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how to find that. Then at 11:48 a.m., Uvalde CISD police officer Ruben Ruiz can be heard telling other officers as he arrives into the school that his wife, Eva Morales, had been shot. This was according to the body cam footage that was collected.
Oh.
So...
Wait, she was one of the teachers?
I assume so. It didn't specify, but if I had to guess, yeah.
That's horrible.
By 11:51 a.m., more law enforcement arrived at the scene. By 11:54 a.m., 21 minutes after the shooter enters the school, an onlooker streams a live video showing parents begging officers to let them inside of the school. So, and they actually had the whole live, and it was an hour long, but that says something that, and that's kind of what I was saying about social media. So I just thought that was interesting, too, that he went live and showed all these parents in distress, and it's just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he himself was one of the parents. Like I said, I didn't really watch the whole live, so I couldn't tell you. But by 12:03 p.m., a student from inside room 112 calls 911 for 1 minute and 23 seconds, identifies herself in a whisper, and meanwhile, as many as 19 officers are positioned in the school's hallway.
Okay.
So, yeah. By 12:10 p.m., student calls back and says multiple people are dead. By 12:13 a.m., student calls 911 again. Authorities have not expanded on her comments during that call.
Can you imagine the fear?
No, because that's why I paused, because the shooter is locked in those rooms with them. So he's probably going back and forth, and she's calling in between when he's going through the rooms. I don't know how the rooms were connected, whether it was a brick wall or one of those like removable kind of wall things. Yeah, exactly. But either way, no, I could not imagine. No, like imagine him like getting caught calling, like oh. Yeah,
I mean you're risking your life, but you're also, he'd kill you if he saw you on the phone or whatnot, or if he knew you were still alive. But that's courage, though.
Yeah, absolutely. By 12:15 p.m., Border Patrol Tactical Unit members carrying shields arrive. 12:16 p.m., a student calls 911 yet again, saying 8 or 9 students are still alive. By 12:17 p.m., Uvalde Elementary School announces on Facebook that there's an active shooter on campus.
What time was that?
12:17. So they made their other Facebook post at 11:43. So that's almost 40 minutes.
Yeah, poorly handled.
Very. Let me find my place again. Onlookers and parents beg for action. At some point during the standoff, according to the Associated Press, parents tried to break windows and were not allowed to immediately be reunited with their children.
I feel for these parents too at this time. This is crazy.
Because I know that, like, God forbid if this were to have happened when I was a kid and my mom, like, she would want to get me, and I totally see that side of it. But on the other side, I see it like, that's a huge crime scene. They need to get their investigation done in order to get justice. The guy is dead, but they've got to know like what happened. It's just kind of
right. Well, is he dead at this point?
Oh yeah, they shot the shooter, Ramos. He's dead. He's done.
Okay,
they killed him that day.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying at where we're at in the timeline.
Oh no. I'm just saying. Yeah.
Okay.
At 12:19 p.m., another student in room 111 calls 911 and hangs up the phone when another student tells her to. At 12:21 p.m., the gunman fires again. Authorities say he was believed to be at the classroom's door, according to because they were on the 911 call with a student, and 3 gunshots can be heard.
Okay.
Let's see. At 12:36 p.m., a student from 111 calls 911 back for about 21 seconds, is told to stay on the line quietly. And then at 12:46 p.m., Arredondo, the man without his radios, gives his approval to enter the classroom and says, if y'all are ready, do it. Or if y'all are ready to do it, you do it. He says, according to transcripted body cam footage. And then also...
Wait, who is he saying that to?
Yeah, and that's what I don't... Because in the beginning, in earlier... Let's see, where was it? When one of the kids had... I think the first 911 call that they made, they said that there were like 19 officers positioned outside in the hallway.
Right.
So I assume he must have just yelled it out, and he took his radios off, but he probably still had his body cam footage on.
Okay.
12:43 p.m. The gunman shot at the room 11 door, 111 door. And then there were two timestamps for 12:46 p.m. At that same time, when Arredondo gave his approval to enter the classroom, a student who called 911 says, "I can hear the police next door." So he must have just yelled it out. 12:50 p.m., shots are heard on the student's call, and a border control tactical unit officer breaches the room using a janitor's key and kills the gunman.
At what time was that?
12:50 p.m.
Okay, 12:50 p.m. and we started this whole mess at 11
a.m. is when he sent a private message to his online friend in Germany about his plans to kill his grandmother.
So almost 2 hours.
Yes, and I apologize for all my stuttering and whatnot. This is this is a lot on my pages here.
No, you're good. But was that the whole timeline?
Pretty much for the most part. There's still more actually, but at 12:51 p.m. from the student's 911 call, it sounded like officers are moving children out of the room at that time. The student makes it outside, and then the 911 call cuts out. And then at 1:06 p.m., police announced on Facebook that the shooter was in custody, but authorities recanted that information later. I don't really know what that, but you know.
Well, first off, good job. That was a
Thank you.
good play-by-play timeline for sure of the whole thing. Horrible, right?
Like, absolutely. Just reading it all, and like when I was gathering info for all of this, and like even what we'll talk about in our second half here too, it's just, I could never even imagine those thoughts going through my brain and like rationalizing those actions somehow. Right. Mentally ill, bullied, like for any reason, like I could never, like that's.
Oh, I mean, you're
special place in hell.
Well, you're a good person.
Right, but
you have feelings.
But like it's just the fact that there are people who can just snap like that. That's absolutely fucking terrifying.
Oh, I agree. The shooter, we had said, I don't like to use his name often because we're not trying to give him any form of shine, but he was 18 years old, right? And I had seen, so he had fatally shot 19 students and 2 teachers.
Yes. And
I had seen wounded 17 other people.
Yeah.
A few points that stood out to me. This is the deadliest school shooting in Texas, okay? And it's the 3rd deadliest in the U.S.
Right.
Currently.
Right.
Okay? Police officers waited 78 minutes on site before breaching the classrooms. From this entire thing, I've heard a lot of things about how poorly the situation was handled by law enforcement.
Right. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I would say that Unprepared, yes, because it's a very difficult situation to prepare for. But also just by reading, because I had heard that before I found this article as well. And by reading it, when these officers go in there and they were already grazed, they now need to do what they have to do it the right way. So that way nobody else gets hurt. Because unfortunately, at that point, if this shooter decided, okay, well, they're going to bust in here, I might as well just fire off. He had many, many rounds. He could have kept going if he wanted to. In his mindset, he probably showed some restraint, is basically what I'm saying. He could have taken the life of everybody in that room if they had just busted in there, guns blazing, and it would have been a gunfight. And that's not what they wanted to do. So I definitely see why everyone is so upset that they took so long to go in. But, it's, I don't, it's hard.
I understand. I agree with a lot of that. I just sometimes think, the numbers game, because if you got one person, right, who's pretty much, I guess, trapped in an area, right, and yes, there are survive. Like at the time, I don't know if these cops know that there are people still alive, besides the shooter. So and if that's the case, sometimes I don't understand why, if you got so many numbers and armor and whatnot, and just charge it. You know what I'm saying?
Based off the timestamps, they did have to wait for these guys with all the armors and the shields to come in. This isn't something that they just keep around.
Right.
So I think a lot of people just, I'm not going to say they expect too much, but I think that they're forgetting that these are all human-run operations that are going to take time to get to where they need to be to handle the situations properly.
Right. But like I said, great job on going through the timeline. I know it was in depth.
Yes.
Do you have anything else that you want to add quickly, just to the timeline or the story?
Just the timeline or the story.
Because we will touch on other things.
What about more about our shooter here? Because something that was more relevant to red flags as to this happening. There were posts of people closer to him saying that he used to enjoy torturing animals as well. So that is also a big thing.
Clear red flag, or signs of sociopaths or serial killers do that same shit.
Exactly. And I found some article that went into depth about certain things that he would do and posts and whatnot, but there were so many red flags. I'll tell you now, there are like 20 screenshots on my phone of it all, and it would just be a lot to dish out. But listen, all you need to do is go ahead, do a Google search, everything you need to know about this guy, and if you're really curious, but I don't want to get into it on here because it's graphic and it's just not, definitely not. But
a disturbed 18-year-old.
Yeah, and then he wonders why his sister flat out refused to give him a gun.
Yeah. Real quickly before we go on break, I just want to talk about a quick story that I had heard, and I don't have too much information on it, but I believe when I heard it, it broke my heart for multiple reasons. But I guess one of the teachers who had died, she was married, right?
Yep.
And it could have been the one that you referred to. I'm not too sure, but I do know that when the husband of one of the women who was shot or killed, when he had found out that she had died, he then suffered a heart attack, I believe.
Yes, I did hear about that.
And died. And they had, I believe, 3 or 4 children now.
Incredibly sad.
Yes, that is heartbreaking. That is horrible.
Heartbreaking probably wasn't the best term to use there.
all because of the actions of this unstable child.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's what's wild to me is just, I want to say, everyone wants to say that these situations are preventable. You can try to put your laws in place and put your officers where they got to be, but if a sociopath wants to go and shoot up a school, they're gonna do it. Crazy people are crazy, and that's what they do. They're criminals. They don't.
Right. Well, we'll touch on some of those when we come back. So let's take a quick break, okay?
All right, sounds good.
All right, and when we come back, we'll quickly touch on one other similar tragedy, as well as discuss our thoughts about gun control and prevention ideas. So make sure you come back with us right here on the It's All Relative podcast.
Shit's the same now. Explode next mode. I'm the same how. Don't say you know me, just say you did. When you see me sliding off to another crib, boom in the game now. I'm the same how. The rap game will never be the same now. Don't say you know me, just say you did. When you hear why yo, say that's that shit.
Welcome back to It's All Relative. Now, I quickly want to touch on another school shooting that at the time was the worst high school shooting in U.S. history.
Yep.
Okay. Have you heard of the Columbine shooting?
Yes, I have.
Okay. What have you heard, or what have you read about?
So I do have a few notes about it, but originally I had really heard about it after Sandy Hook had occurred, because they were also comparing that to Columbine as well. Columbine happened in '99. I was born in 2000, so
Right.
I wasn't even around to experience, what that was like and how people handled it, or the reactions, all that kind of interesting stuff that you see in the media. I don't know how much of it was there, but. But,
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I have the basic info. What I didn't know, though, was about the 2 duffel bags, each containing the 20-pound propane bombs they set to explode, but they failed. I did not know that until I did research for this.
So, yeah, which was wild, because I guess, I mean, they're obviously aren't alive to be able to ask, but the original plan seemed like it was supposed to hurt or kill a lot more people.
Yeah, especially in the cafeteria at 11:17 a.m. Like, that's right. That's prime lunchtime, especially for schools. They've got people going in and out all the time. So,
yeah, so what had happened was they had arrived earlier, I guess, at school and put those bombs in the cafeteria.
Yep.
And then they went back and waited in their cars.
Yeah.
And when the bombs didn't go off, that's when, I guess, Plan B or whatever they decided.
Plan B.
At about 11:19 on April 20th, 1999. You did off mic mention the day or the date that fell on, but I did want to ask: do you know what 420 is or stands for, other than the 420 involving
I do not.
cannabis? Okay, 420 was actually April 20th was the day that Hitler was born.
Oh,
as
wow.
well. Yes.
Okay. Yep.
So there were references and whatnot to, maybe that's why the day was picked out then.
Yeah.
I know, you don't know. But either way, they, the two, the 18-year-old and 17-year-old,
Yep.
We'll just mention their names real quick. Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold.
And it's the age group, too, even them and Ramos, they're the same, and that's wild to me.
Yeah. But they were dressed in trench coats, and the two began shooting fellow students outside of the high school. Right? They moved into the school to the library, and they began firing their guns. By about 11:35, they had killed 12 students and a teacher and wounded more than 20 other people. And then shortly after, at about 12 p.m., they turned their guns on themselves. Okay, so it didn't last as long as the incident in Uvalde.
No.
But like I said, I guess the original plan didn't involve, I guess, necessarily the guns. It was more for the bombs. But
right.
Police at the time were criticized also for not intervening, during the shooting.
Yeah.
Okay. The reason why I mention this is because this is a shooting that stood out to me since the day that it happened. Okay,
All right.
and the reason why I say that is because I remember I was in 8th grade at this time. All right, and I remember coming home from school, and first thing that I did was sit down real quick in front of the TV. I remember turning on MTV,
Yeah.
and there used to be a show on MTV called TRL, or Total Request Live, and they would just show like the top 10 music videos of the time or of the day,
Right.
or,
Yep.
of the time period, whatever. And I remember turning it on, and it was not that. It was live footage and them covering this whole shooting. And
Right.
I remember seeing video of students running outside of the high school and whatnot, and just complete chaos. And still at a very young and a tender, I guess, age.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep,
8th
yep.
grade. It was
A very real thing to see, for sure.
and very real, but different too at the same time, because like I remember being in shock because I had never really seen anything like that before. Like school shooting, like that had never even that thought had never even crossed my mind.
Right. That's what I was saying earlier about not even being able to have that thought process. Like, it wasn't even
Right.
It's not fathomable.
Right. I remember thinking too, like while watching this though, that like, that could never happen to me or to where I was at.
Right.
Think, at that, your mindset as a kid, Colorado is very far away from where we are at.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, now to go from this incident in 99 to present,
Right.
2022, it hasn't stopped.
No.
Right, and there's been many in between.
Mm-hmm.
When Columbine happened, society blamed school bullying, quote unquote, cliques, violence in video games and movies. I want to get your thoughts real quick on those. Do you agree with any of those statements? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say of either, like I said, school bullying, cliques, violence in video games and movies.
I mean, I think violence in video games and movies, overexposure to it maybe, and at a young age might be part of a problem. But it also it depends on every kid. Every kid is going to react differently. Some kids don't like loud noises, so they're going to see a gun or hear a gun on a movie or video game, and they're going to shy away.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a lot about the parents in an aspect, if you ask me, because you have to watch what your kids are being exposed to and keep an eye on these things, because especially in states where it is so easy to get a weapon, you need to know like what your kids are into, what your kids are doing, what they're spending their money on, and it's just I think it's just on the parents to keep an eye on exposure to video games and stuff like that.
Okay.
As far as the bullying, I don't ever see anybody bullying so bad that you think it's okay to go and shoot up a school.
Right.
I think that that's reaching. I think that that's kind of absurd to even say that, because I would say probably a good 95% of people get quote unquote bullied while they're in school at some point in their school career. So imagine if every single person decided to go and shoot up a school every single time they were bullied.
Right.
That's insane, because that was another thing with Ramos as well. And I just it's no excuse. I don't care who said what to you. It's not okay.
Okay, I agree.
Yeah.
Now, with the current uprise of these mass shootings, okay, it seems that there are two sides, okay, and these two sides, it's either the gun's fault or the individual's fault, okay. I'm interested, I would like to know, whose side do you lean more towards and why?
I am 100% on it's the people's fault.
Okay.
Because, It's pretty simple. A gun just doesn't go off by itself. It doesn't go off by itself. That's there's nothing else to say. Like
Bottom line.
I could, yeah, like it just doesn't go off by itself. And I think that, you know, people go and, you know, criminals are criminals, all right? They go around stabbing people. Are you going to ban knives because the knife was used to stab someone?
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. That's not how that works. You get in a car accident and someone passes away. Are you going to ban that year, make, and model of the car? No. It just doesn't, you know? And I understand that it's a way more extreme weapon and use of force, but in a situation where someone else, a bad guy, has a gun and you have a gun, you have the capability to at least take that bad guy out and get his gun away from him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're going to be the one to save everybody, just do it. Like, if you're carrying, be responsible. It's just, it's simple. And, I mean, no matter what laws and rules are put in place, like I said earlier, criminals are criminal. They're going to get a weapon regardless.
Right.
You know, whether it's illegally or whether, you know, and you bring up the topic of people making their own guns and stuff like that, and theft.
Yeah, it's the part of life of, I mean, if people want a certain something bad enough, they'll find a way to get it, right?
Exactly.
Well, let me hear about your thoughts then real quick on owning guns. What are your owning firearms?
I think there is such a thing as maybe excessive.
Okay.
Some people might be like on the collective side and still be responsible, have them locked away, you know, no excessive ammo, nothing like that. But I think it's kind of to each their own because every circumstance is different, you know, and that's the case with so many different controversial topics is every single circumstance is different. So you have to take a look at it for what it is, and then based off of what you know, is it acceptable to have that many, or is it like, okay, what do you need that for? You know, it really depends.
Okay. So I agree with some of that for sure. I think that there is nothing wrong with owning a handgun or a shotgun or what have you for protection. Mm-hmm. Okay. If you know, you got family, we live in a crazy world right now too. So like, protecting yourself is important. There are crazy people or unstable people out there.
Yeah.
Right? But
PC terms.
Right. Excessive amounts of guns.
Yeah. Like
you said, I gotta ask why. Like, I don't understand, I guess, right? Why someone would need to have or own like an arsenal. Like, like, what do you for what? Like, right, you know what I'm saying? I don't.
And like I mentioned, like collectors, okay, but like I feel like collectors, they shouldn't have the ammo that goes for the gun. It should be like propped up on a wall somewhere, like not, you know, not even somehow dismantled so it can't even be used. You know what I'm saying?
I'm sure there are. Do you know of any gun collectors?
No, but I mean, I would imagine that they're definitely out there.
Okay.
You know, maybe people, older people, retired military, stuff like that. Collecting stuff like, you know, hunters. Right.
So, like, I did want to touch on that real quick because, okay, hunters and hunting, they usually have a few options with rifles.
Yes.
Yeah, right. I myself, you know what I'm saying? I'm not cool with killing animals, like, as a sport, right? But I get it, okay?
Yeah.
So...
Yep. Have you ever had venison?
I have. When I was younger, I had some venison jerky one time.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that shit was fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I actually have. I was super young, so I don't really remember too well. But I did have a venison burger. Mm-hmm.
Another good
at
one.
a point in my life, yeah. Which I'm open to trying and eating anything. You know, like I go hard on food.
Right,
you know what I'm saying? I just don't like to think about certain things, and like I said, I don't like killing like anything. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't like killing animals or whatnot or any of that. But so, but like I said, for hunters or people who hunt, okay, so I can understand, you know, of having a few options.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know exactly what the different. I would just think a few rifles. Like I don't really know. Maybe a shotgun. Right.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
I don't really know what the hell you're hunting. Besides deer. Right. I don't know what else people really hunt.
Yeah, and I mean, keep in mind the area that we're from. We don't have like the biggest deer or the biggest this, that, and the third, and like game is different in each state.
You're not trying to blow that shit away. You know what I'm
and
saying?
like, well, I mean. I guess that's true.
Right, but
especially if you plan to eat it.
Yeah, so but I want to get back to I want to get back to like the AR-15 topic, okay? Now, owning one of those or types of guns that can cause massive damage in seconds, that I don't agree with. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know about all that either. That's
and I'm not talking shit or anything about people who own them or whatever. I'm just simply stating that like I don't see a need for something like that. And if you own one or like if people, you know, have them, like what are you going to use it for? Like what? Yeah. I don't understand. Like you can't you're not going to use that for hunting.
I mean, some people do just enjoy to have it to go to a gun range and to go and shoot some shit. And honestly, I can respect that too, though. But God forbid, I mean, it's hard because is it excessive in the case? So let's say someone does get it because they enjoy going to the gun range shooting shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then someone breaks into their house.
Mm-hmm.
And they take them out at the fucking knees.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is it excessive weaponry? Yeah, but you're doing what you have to do to protect your home. And, like, I mean, at that point, I mean, I assume, in my case, that would be my last resort. Like, I would try to get the guy out. I would try to use, you know, common household weapons to do whatever, but...
Well, you know. Once again, I have no problem. If someone enters or breaks into your house, by all means, I'm not saying... go ahead and I'm not saying kill anybody, but
I think it's all about the intention when you buy the weapon.
Right. So, well, that's what I'm saying. An owner of an AR-15, I'm pretty sure that if someone owns an AR-15, that they probably
like if you point it at someone and they immediately run away, you're not gonna don't fire that weapon, you know, like no matter what gun it is, regardless. But
right. But what I'm saying is that owners that have those types of guns, I guarantee you also have handguns and smaller things too. So like if someone did break into their house and whatnot,
right, it's not the first one they're grabbing.
You don't have to use. That's what I'm saying. I don't understand now. Going to shooting ranges and whatnot, like you had said, and bringing an AR-15 and unloading and just, I can see how it's therapeutic.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm all
and legal.
for it. Yeah. I'm not throwing shade and hating on that at all. Like, you know, I just don't understand the need for something like that.
Right,
okay?
Right.
And like I said, I'm always open and willing. We're always trying to interact with fans and whatnot. Mm-hmm. If anybody wants to get at us and let us know their opinions and whatnot, or
definitely,
or what they like, what the hell did you guys use your AR-15s for?
Yeah, like, what is it about? Because honestly, for me, it really does all just come down to intent and circumstance, you know?
Mm-hmm. Right. So I think that the accessibility to acquire firearms should be looked at. Okay. And what I mean by that is almost per individual.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because once again, I lean towards, and what I say is I don't blame the gun also. Mm-hmm. Okay. I do blame the individual. My point though with the guns and whatnot, like there's no need for massive amounts
heavy
of shit,
machinery.
bro. Yeah. that's uncalled for. But you know, looking at it per individual, there are a lot of, like we said, mentally unstable people. Yeah. And so What do you think? What if they had said, or if they came out with a law or something where if it's clinically proven that you have some mental instability, right? That you may have to, it may be a little more difficult for you to legally acquire a firearm.
I think that would be fair. Yeah.
Yes.
Mental instability, any crime, obviously using a weapon of any sort in the past, but especially a gun. I don't think if you've, committed a crime with a gun in the past, you should not be able to own one in the future, because as we've seen, it's not something to play with. Like, one strike, you already, you're out. You don't need another opportunity after that, because it's not worth it. But I think it's a lot about background checks. And like I said, social media now is so present. And once you post something, whether you delete it, no matter what, it's still there. And I think that even all social media platforms should be more, let people access maybe more of those deleted photos and, what is going on social media, because Ramos, in those articles that I had found and all the screenshots in my phone, he was posting him doing all of these different things to these animals, and I don't know if he kept them up. I don't know if he deleted them, if it was on the story. I have no idea.
That's horrible.
But yeah, so imagine if they had seen that, looked back and seen that before they had sold him the weapon. Might take longer to get, which some people might see as difficult, but I think taking the time to make sure that people are stable and not, torturing animals on social media, big red flag of.
Well, I also think and agree too that at the age of 18, for a fucking 18-year-old to be able to purchase an AR-15 is pretty stupid. All right?
And it heavily premeditated. Okay, he asked his sister back in 2021, "Can you buy me a gun?" And then you go and spend, I think I wrote it somewhere in my notes, upwards of $2,000 plus to buy the guns and the ammo and everything.
Damn.
So you were saving up for a while. That's just.
Well, either way, I don't think an 18-year-old is mentally mature enough to own or to handle something like that, smartly, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then once again, like I said, what are you gonna do with that, bro?
Yeah, especially an 18-year-old. I don't think an 18-year-old should be getting a fucking AR-15.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, nowadays, it's almost uncommon for someone not to be carrying, because, like we had said, the world is so crazy. But I mean, that's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I know people who carry who struggle to decide, do I bring it? Do I not? Do I leave it home? Do I leave it in the car? Do I bring it into this restaurant? And it's hard because it could be the best decision. It could be the worst decision.
Yeah. But I mean, if you legally and can prove and have all the paperwork and stuff, if you have a carry and conceal or whatever permit or whatever it's called, then I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, do what you gotta do.
Use it, do it, whatever. I mean, not use it. You know what I'm saying?
Use the permit, not the gun.
But I mean, I don't know. I mean, is it unnecessary? Sometimes, I guess, but that's pretty rough to even conclude, because
you're probably not going to need it going into a Starbucks, that would be all right. And it also depends, occupational wise, all right, we know investigators, police officers, blah 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 blah, that's different. But if you're just an average Joe, you need to have some limitations. Okay, I don't need it here, I shouldn't bring it there. There's going to be a lot of kids here, Right.
Well, I will just say, let me leave it with a quote that I've heard my whole life, right? And it's basically, I mean, people can accept it and take it how they want, you know what I'm saying? But excuse me, it's you don't want to show up to a gunfight with just a knife.
Yep.
All right. I mean, that's all I'm saying. I mean, self-explanatory, right?
Yeah, people are crazy.
But let's move on to a few prevention ideas, okay? What are some prevention ideas or steps that are being done for when this happens again? Because unfortunately, history has proven that it hasn't stopped and it's going to continue, right? So unfortunately, and the scary thing and fucked up thing is that it will most likely happen again.
Because unfortunately, as prevention evolves, so do criminals. They're going to get smarter. They're going to figure it out. People will take the time to do it if they want to commit a crime. And it's bad people. It's not always the law enforcement's fault. It's not always staff's fault or the school's fault. Although, like we said earlier, some of those timestamps, that Facebook post after the shooter was inside saying the kids are secure. Definitely sketchy.
Yep.
Not a fan. Anywho's, so it's just, you just gotta...
Right. So, well, what are some prevention ideas that you may think of that may work to help maybe minimize or help? I guess we could say help prevent this from happening again.
It's hard because a lot of people say metal detectors and whatnot, but Columbine, they just kind of walked in. It doesn't matter. They don't care about the metal detectors in the front. They can walk in and just start shooting. It's not. And Uvalde had police officers there at the school already, or at least that's how it appeared from the timestamps. I don't know that for sure, but based off of that, it seemed like they did have police officers there at the school, and it still occurred. I honestly don't know what, because like I said, people will evolve as the prevention evolves. So.
Right. Well, you hit two that I did want to touch on because I want to know if you had thought that, if any, were effective.
Also, I did just think another one. And having teachers armed as well is another controversial topic that people are bouncing around with.
What's your thoughts on that?
That's a little bit hard. I think that it would be best... I don't know if I would want students to know if the teacher is carrying or not. I feel like students should be unaware of that, but I also think that would be kind of hard too.
Yeah, for me, I don't agree with that. I don't think that the teachers should. It's
definitely a gray area for me, because again, you never know. Then somewhere in history that opens up the books for a teacher losing their mind and pulling a gun on a student and being threatening, and you don't even want to open up that can of worms. So it is a bit of a gray area, and it's not like you can have bodyguards outside of every classroom with guns. It's just too many people with too many guns in a room. One is bound to go off, and that's the whole thing. The more guns, the more one is bound to go off.
So you hit pretty much every single thing that we were going to talk about, and seeing if they were effective. More security, you had said, it didn't really help in the Uvalde case. Providing teachers with firearms, maybe not the best idea. What about providing the security people that work at these schools firearms? Do you think that's a good idea? Do you agree? Because they're more if they added more security,
depending on the size of the school, knowing where I went to high school, I would think 2, possibly 3 armed, secured, trained, professional, experienced, armed security guards, police officers, whomever in there. It wouldn't hurt. But then again, also the area that it's in, you have to consider it's very... I don't even want to say it, but it depends on where you live. I assume some areas are more prone to it than others because of the state that you're in, how accessible guns are, stuff like that. But, I think that could potentially help, but, that person, whoever has that weapon, also has to be ready to completely risk it all. God forbid a shooter does get in there. So that's also kind of a hard thing to... Right.
Well, you did mention metal detectors. I the local high school where I grew up at, I did not attend that school, but I know back in like the 90s and 2000s, they are ready because it's such a violent, area.
Yeah.
That metal detectors were a part of the thing back then,
Right.
For that high school. So, yeah, but to your point, yes, if someone's already got the idea and they got the gun, they're
They're walking into that
aren't
school,
gonna
and that's
nothing.
it.
But now, what about the idea of using? Okay, and I know it may sound crazy, but only using one entrance. Okay, high schools are big.
Yeah.
Okay, but one entrance with, let's say, metal detectors and whatnot, and all the security. You think
High school
effective?
Sarah is screaming at that thought, but that's Sarah that's 14 through 18.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if I had to look at it now, if that is something that officials and people in that point of power would think help, I think it wouldn't be a bad idea. But knowing kids in especially high schools, and not so much middle schools, I would say more so in high schools, you got kids who are ditching class and letting kids out through this door and that door, and propping this door open and going off campus and doing all this shit that
Normal
is
high school life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think even regardless, it would, I don't know, I could still see that, I could still see a quote unquote loophole there.
Okay. I mean, my only concern with that is if there was an emergency, or whatnot.
Yep, that too. That as well. Fire.
Yeah, that you've caused a lot of issues with that idea, and the fact that time. Okay. And
teachers are not understanding of that either. I remember, all right, sorry to cut you off, a couple times where entrances have been blocked off, or for whatever reason we couldn't go this, that, and the third, and we were late to class because of it, and teachers will get on you about it, mad that you're late, but what were you supposed to do?
Yeah.
Some teachers just don't care. Oh, you get up earlier, get here earlier. That's what they'll tell you.
Yeah. Well, what about locally or in general in the world? Have you heard anything else of what may be going inside now, like inside the classroom areas in schools, if this situation were to happen again, or what are schools doing to
maybe panic buttons would be like an interesting idea. Panic buttons of sorts,
Okay, have you
Beach network for a school? And that was totally off the top of my head. So no, I have not done any research or anything like that.
No, well, I mean, I know locally that I've heard some actual, I guess, disturbing things with a few people. Okay, and these people were in the education system as well as current students.
All right.
Okay.
Yep.
And locally, nothing's really been said, or no new protocols are in place.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of stopped what I wanted to say earlier, because where we are, it's, we wouldn't expect that to happen at all. And I don't want to jinx anything. That's why I'm choosing my words very, very carefully, because it's, Murphy's Law and all that. But I don't know. I think that from where I went to school, their reaction to even a threat of that is taken very, very seriously, and they don't play. I do remember at one point there was a rumor of a weapon in the school, and within probably 5 to 10 minutes, next time you looked out the window, there were 15 state troopers parked outside. So
now, when that happened to you back then, what in setting, what happened? What did you have to do? What did they make you do?
So I remember at that point when it happened, we were actually in the cafeteria, and then the cafeteria had the windows tinted, so they couldn't see in from the outside. We could see outside,
right?
And it was just little shaded, hard to see from the inside, but they could not look inside. So we were all over by the windows, under where, because closest to because it's a big box, that's how the cafeteria was. So you went to the windows and you kind of ducked underneath them, got low to the ground, with all your stuff. But at that point, like the whole scenario, we kind of figured that there wasn't actually a weapon in the school, and it was pocket knife, but it wasn't a gun. Nobody had ended up having a gun, from what I know. But even recently at that high school, someone was, I want to say stabbed, correct? Yeah. Yep. So it's just, it's violence in all forms that's just really hard to predict. You can't. And prevent, you can try, but,
Yeah, I
think that there could be more done, but I don't really know what they could do, because you can't predict the future.
Right. I was told by a student, though, from the local high school that there were, I guess, a few more security people added throughout, like, the high school, just because of the, I guess there have been a few recent fights, and because of the stabbing that took place at the football game.
Yep.
But I do know they had also mentioned that, I guess, there was no new news. There was nothing said to, like, if, in case of an emergency, if this were to happen, you need to do this. But I guess what the general knowledge was that if something happened,
and that's a big school too.
Yeah. Well, if something happened, you lock the door, right, that you're in, and you get to a corner and get down.
Yeah.
But that was it.
Yeah, and that's all they really showed us. And circling back to the social media thing, too, it does have its perks, where recently, actually, I've seen a trick going around of taking one of these desk chairs and propping it into the door handle a specific way. Mm-hmm. And, there's stuff like that that you can do. And, social media is really good at pushing that out now, especially since, what just occurred.
Yeah, that shit's old school.
Yeah, but if it's effective, shit.
Yeah.
Stop someone in their tracks for a few seconds in order for that kid to jump out the window or do what they got to do. And that's the local high school is big, and there's 2 floors, and it's high up, and it's not a far fall, but it's not really the fall. It's that stop in your ankles and whether or not they'll survive it.
Yeah.
Tuck and roll.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. It's maybe a cause for concern, I guess, that there hasn't been really
too much action
about it, because it almost seems like, I guess, they're just kind of
taking it for granted.
Yes, or in a sense, just kind of waiting for something bad, unfortunately, to happen. And then
I've said that for a very long time, especially about that high school. Even when we were there, I was like, even someone close to me works in the transportation industry there, and with that many kids, we had upwards of 40 buses parked there to take everybody home. And you call those buses there if they decide to go home early because of a threat or something like that, and the threat turns into a real thing. They're sitting ducks, full of kids or just with drivers. Either way, it's human life. You can't pick and choose which is quote unquote more important. It's all human life, and you just can't have people sitting there waiting. So it's just it's hard. But I remember my mom always telling me, if anything were to ever happen, the house is close. Just jump out the window and run home. Like, don't even hesitate. Anyone tries to tell you to stop, don't listen to anybody. Like, if you can get out of that place, get out. Yeah. Be aware of your surroundings if you do.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, bottom line, I guess for me, I think with this whole topic, the whole situation, I think the main focal point should be on the individual. And I think parents and family and friends and whatever, look at those close to you, pay attention to warning signs.
Yeah. I've got a sibling who's in middle school, and she's going to be in high school soon. And, within the next few years, and it's just like, I would hate to see it evolve into something where, like you said, they're waiting for something to happen, and God forbid she's there while it finally happens. That's terrifying. That's terrifying.
But we're going to begin to wrap it up here. But we just want to state once again that it was an absolute tragedy that happened in Uvalde. And our thoughts and prayers are with everyone who's been affected.
Yes, definitely.
You got any last thoughts or anything else that you would like to say?
No,
this?
like you said, any and all family affected, thoughts and prayers, and I just hope that you guys are able to heal. And I know so many people have been visiting the memorial that is there in Texas for them, and I've seen pictures. It's beautiful. So, yeah,
Word. Continue,
just a lot of respect.
Yeah, continue to spread love and not hate.
Yes.
Right? But before we go, I want to give a big shout out to the Virginal Cinephiles podcast.
Yes.
Yeah, they have recently favorited It's All Relative, and they got a great up and coming show. They do. If you like movies, go check them out.
Yeah.
For sure. But another big shout out to our editor, Jackson Wallace. Sarah, you want to hit him with your social media?
Yeah, definitely. So my Instagram is Sarah with 2 H's _ Molnar, Molnar with 2 R's. And then my TikTok is Sarah with an H, J Molnar.
And you guys can always find me at Josh_Toth3. That's my Instagram, and my Facebook is Joshua Toth. The message option on Anchor, please use it and interact with us. Okay?
Yes.
This episode is going to leave people with many opinions and views on things that we hit.
Yes.
Get at us.
Yeah, definitely. We want to hear it.
Yes.
Listen,
share your opinion.
Any attention is good attention. I'll address hate comments. I will. Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll accept anything.
Appropriately. Listen,
correct.
I will only have a conversation with you. I do not argue. So.
Yes, that's what it's all about. That's what I'm saying. That's what this platform is. It's a chance for us to use our voice and talk about, things that people are scared
controversial,
to talk about. Yeah. So, but
someone has to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Sarah, you want to remind everyone where they can find us at?
Definitely. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, Anchor, YouTube, and Google.
And what's the update? Do we have an update yet on Twitter?
No, I was actually thinking about that before we started recording here, and we should probably, after we wrap up, try to check that out again and see if we can get that user that we want.
Yeah, give us a few more weeks, I guess, and we'll see how that goes.
Damn technology.
All right, that's a wrap.
Yes.
Sarah, great job.
Thank you. You as well.
Thank you. All right, everyone, stay safe, stay kind, stay proud and powerful, and we'll see everyone soon. Peace.
Bye, guys.